Deborah Kerr was the epitome of elegance, a British actress whose career sparkled with portrayals of refined nuns, graceful princesses, and disciplined school teachers. Yet beneath this polished image lay a woman eager to break free of the constraints of propriety. When she shared an iconic, steamy kiss with Burt Lancaster in The Waves, wearing nothing but a bikini, Hollywood saw a whole new side of her. Her journey was one of contrasts, the saintly versus the daring, the poised versus the passionate. But who truly was Deborah Kerr? Let's uncover the woman behind the facade. Deborah Jane Trimmer, the name behind the legend, was born on September 30th, 1921 in Glasgow, Scotland. From the beginning, her life wasn't as charmed as it seemed. Raised in a strict and often harsh environment, young Deborah faced some peculiar challenges. Her grandmother, obsessed with correcting her posture, forced the little girl to lie flat on a cold, hard floor for long stretches of time. It was a tough love that hinted at the resilience Kerr would need as she embarked on an extraordinarily demanding path. Before the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, Kerr had her heart set on becoming a ballerina. She endured the rigorous training of dance, suffering through bruised toes and the agony of pointe shoes. As much as she loved the artistry of ballet, it was an uphill battle for the reserved and painfully shy Kerr. But dancing gave her a voice, a way to express herself without uttering a single word. Even so, destiny had a different stage in mind for her. Enter Phyllis Smale, Kerr's aunt and a woman with an eye for untapped potential. Smale believed that acting might help Deborah conquer her shyness. Conveniently, Smale worked at a drama school in Bristol, and her encouragement nudged Kerr to trade ballet slippers for theater scripts. The switch wasn't easy. Stepping onto a stage to speak was far more intimidating than dancing silently in the spotlight. Yet, ironically, it was through acting that Kerr found liberation, unlocking a confidence she didn't know she possessed. Her leap of faith paid off. Kerr quickly caught the eye of theater directors and soon transitioned to film. In 1940, she landed her first movie role, a small but significant part in Contraband. Her excitement was palpable. This was her big break, the chance to finally make her mark. But when the film was released, her elation turned to heartbreak. Her role had been reduced in the final cut, leaving her dreams momentarily dashed. In her debut movie Contraband, she worked with high hopes only to have every single one of her scenes cut from the final release. Imagine the heartbreak of seeing your dreams vanish into thin air, replaced by disappointment. But Deborah wasn't one to wallow. She dusted herself off and focused on the next project, hoping her perseverance would eventually pay off. Unfortunately, the industry wasn't done testing her yet. Her next film, Love on the Dole, brought an entirely new kind of challenge: harsh comparisons. Critics couldn't help but pit her against Wendy Hiller, who had originally brought the role to life on stage. Their reviews weren't kind. Deborah was dismissed as a pretty but inexperienced actress who didn't hold a candle to Hiller's talent. Can you imagine how those words must have stung? Yet, even as Hiller's shadow loomed large over her early career, Kerr didn't back down. She saw the criticism as fuel, using it to drive herself toward improvement. Determined to prove her worth, Kerr threw herself into a string of British films, one of which was Major Barbara. The director insisted she immerse herself in the role by volunteering with the Salvation Army, the very organization her character was devoted to. This wasn't just about learning lines or blocking scenes. Deborah found herself face to face with London's most vulnerable, the homeless and hungry. It was a deeply humbling experience that stayed with her long after filming ended. But even the gritty reality of the Salvation Army couldn't prepare her for what happened on the set of her next film. While working on The Day Will Dawn in 1942, Kerr faced danger not just in the fictional world of her character, but in real life. One evening, after filming wrapped, her co-star Rex Harrison invited her for a drink. Their quiet gathering was suddenly shattered by the unthinkable. A German bomb exploded in a nearby field, sending a shower of soil and debris into the air. The blast was deafening, and chaos erupted as they scrambled for safety. By sheer luck, both Kerr and Harrison escaped unharmed. In 1943, Kerr landed a role that would not only put her name in lights, but also solidify her as one of the most versatile actresses of her generation. Her performance in The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp changed everything, and the road leading there is nothing short of remarkable. Out of an incredible 700 aspiring actresses, Kerr emerged as the chosen one for the coveted role in Colonel Blimp. Imagine the competition, the sheer pressure of standing out among hundreds of hopefuls. But Kerr didn't just win the part, she became the face of the entire film. The producers had so much confidence in her that they placed her name above every other actor on the film's posters. A bold and almost unheard of move for a young actress at the time. Kerr wasn't playing just one character, she was playing three. It was a triple role, demanding a level of range and nuance that even seasoned actors might hesitate to tackle. Director Michael Powell, who helmed the project, had originally envisioned the part for Wendy Hiller, the same actress who had haunted Kerr's early career comparisons. Fate intervened when Hiller's pregnancy made her unavailable, leaving the door open for Kerr to step in. And step in she did, not just filling Hiller's shoes, but surpassing every expectation. Critics raved about her performance, praising her ability to seamlessly embody three distinct characters, each with their own unique personality and emotional depth. However, Kerr's triumph wasn't without its share of challenges. Behind the scenes, Powell had been reluctant to cast her in the first place. She wasn't his first choice, and he reportedly viewed her as a consolation prize after losing Hiller. Can you imagine walking onto set knowing the director didn't fully believe in you? Yet instead of letting this doubt deter her, Kerr used it as fuel. She worked tirelessly, proving her worth not just to Powell, but to everyone involved in the production. By the time the cameras rolled, there was no denying that Kerr was the right choice. Deborah Kerr's life took a dramatic turn when her passionate affair with director Michael Powell unraveled, marking the end of a relationship filled with both creative collaboration and personal intensity. Powell had grand plans to feature Kerr in A Canterbury Tale, reuniting her with her Colonel Blimp co-star Roger Livesey. But just as those plans were coming together, Kerr's agent stepped in and sold her contract to MGM in Hollywood. For Powell, this was an unforgivable betrayal. The affair crumbled, leaving Kerr unanchored and ready to explore new opportunities, both romantically and professionally. Before the final blow to their relationship, Kerr had confessed a painful truth to Powell. She admitted that if MGM offered her a ticket to Hollywood, she wouldn't hesitate. She'd be on the next plane. Her candor left Powell disheartened and ultimately led him to end their romance. But while Powell nursed his wounds, Kerr quickly found herself drawn to someone new. In 1945, she married Anthony Bartley, a decorated Royal Air Force squadron leader. The match seemed perfect on the surface, a Hollywood-bound starlet and a war hero. Together they built a family, welcoming two daughters, Melanie Jane and Francesca Ann. However, cracks began to form in their marriage almost immediately. Bartley struggled with the fact that his wife's star was rapidly rising, and with it, her income far outpaced his. His discomfort with Kerr's success created tension in their relationship, a foreshadowing of deeper troubles to come. Meanwhile, Kerr wasn't just waiting for Hollywood's call. She was making waves in British cinema, proving her talent, and solidifying her reputation as one of the industry's brightest stars. In 1947, Kerr reunited professionally with Michael Powell for Black Narcissus, a film that would prove pivotal in her career. Despite the end of their affair, Powell remained determined to keep Kerr in Britain, believing she was destined to dominate the British film scene. Ironically, it was Black Narcissus that ultimately propelled Kerr straight into Hollywood's orbit. Her mesmerizing performance in the film, particularly her portrayal of a conflicted nun battling inner desires, caught the attention of MGM and solidified her place as a sought-after talent. Bartley, still clinging to his RAF roots, was reluctant to uproot his life and follow Kerr to America. The idea of leaving post-war Britain, however bleak it was with its rationing and shortages, didn't sit well with him, but the promise of a better life in the U.S., with abundant resources and a fresh start, eventually wore him down. Reluctantly, Bartley agreed to make the move. Yet once they landed in Hollywood, Kerr's rapid ascent only exacerbated the insecurities he already harbored. Her success on the silver screen highlighted the growing disparity between their lives and set the stage for more challenges in their marriage. Hollywood embraced Kerr almost immediately. Her natural grace and impeccable diction placed her alongside some of the biggest names in the industry. She quickly found herself starring opposite legends like Clark Gable, Spencer Tracy, and Ava Gardner. But while her career flourished, there was one nagging drawback. Hollywood typecast her as the epitome of refinement. Time and again, she was offered roles as nuns, teachers, and noblewomen, characters that leaned heavily on her composed demeanor and upper-class accent. While these parts showcased her poise and talent, Kerr knew she was capable of so much more. She yearned to shatter the mold and prove she could handle daring, unexpected roles. Her first step toward reinvention came in 1950 with the romantic comedy Please Believe Me. In this light-hearted film, Kerr played a woman pursued by three admirers, a sharp departure from her usual prim and proper characters. The film gave her a chance to flex her comedic muscles, demonstrating her versatility to both audiences and studio executives. But while it was a step in the right direction, Kerr knew that to truly take control of her career, she needed to escape the constraints of her MGM contract. Trapped by MGM's insistence on casting her as the picture-perfect aristocrat or saintly figure, she realized that breaking free from the studio's grip was her only path forward. But freedom came with a steep price. Kerr paid an eye-watering $1,000 a week to terminate her contract, a sum that underscored just how determined she was to reinvent herself. Kerr hired powerhouse agent Burt Allenberg, a man with a reputation for bold moves and industry savvy. His first mission? Position Kerr for the role that would change everything. Karen Holmes in From Here to Eternity. Allenberg immediately recognized that the part of Karen Holmes, a complex, passionate woman caught in an illicit affair, could be the key to shattering Kerr's prim and proper image. The role was daring, sultry, and the polar opposite of the reserved characters Kerr had been known for. But convincing the studio to see her in such a provocative light was a monumental challenge. After all, the part had already been earmarked for a major Hollywood icon, Joan Crawford. Crawford was the definition of Hollywood royalty, and her involvement in From Here to Eternity seemed like a foregone conclusion. For Kerr, the odds of landing the role looked slim, but then, in true Hollywood fashion, fate stepped in to rewrite the script. Crawford's larger-than-life personality and her infamous demands became her undoing. She insisted that the studio hire her personal cameraman, a move that didn't sit well with the production team. Studio bosses already wary of her towering ego, decided they'd had enough. Crawford was out, and suddenly the door was open for Kerr to step in. With Crawford out of the picture, Allenberg saw his chance and wasted no time pushing Kerr for the role. He worked tirelessly to position her as the ideal choice, emphasizing her untapped potential and her readiness to tackle a bold, transformative character. But while the timing seemed perfect, there was still one significant obstacle: a skeptical studio executive who wasn't convinced that Kerr could pull off such a departure from her usual roles. The stakes couldn't have been higher, and Kerr's shot at reinvention hung precariously in the balance. When her agent, Burt Allenberg, pitched her for the part of Karen Holmes, a bold and unapologetically scandalous adulteress, Columbia Pictures boss Harry Cohn was quick to dismiss the idea. Cohn, like many in Hollywood, could only see Kerr as the refined British lady she'd portrayed in earlier films. He abruptly ended the call, leaving Allenberg with nothing to show for his efforts. But fate wasn't done with Deborah Kerr just yet. After the call, Cohn shared the ridiculous notion of casting Kerr with the film's writer and director, expecting them to laugh it off. Instead, they loved it. To them, casting a woman known for her elegance and restraint in such a fiery, morally complex role was inspired. It would add an unexpected layer of intrigue and subvert audience expectations. Cohn, faced with their enthusiasm, reluctantly agreed. Kerr had the part, but the real work was only beginning. Even with her groundbreaking casting, Kerr wasn't out of the woods. Sharing the screen with none other than Marilyn Monroe, who also appeared in the film, created its own challenges. Monroe's undeniable star power loomed large, and in some publicity stills, audiences even confused Kerr for Monroe. For Kerr, this wasn't just a chance to step outside her comfort zone. It was a battle to stand out in a film bursting with iconic talent. To cement her transformation, Kerr would need to deliver a performance that no one could forget, and she did, thanks to one unforgettable scene that would forever change the way Hollywood saw her: the love scene between Karen Holmes and Burt Lancaster's Sargent. Warden was originally written as a vertical embrace on the beach, a moment of passion constrained by the limits of its time. But Lancaster had a bold suggestion: take it horizontal. The director agreed, asking Kerr and Lancaster to wear swimsuits and roll around in the surf for what would become one of the most iconic romantic scenes in film history. The question was, would Kerr, who had spent her career trying to shake her prim, proper image, embrace something so daring? The answer came in the form of that famous kiss, with waves crashing over the couple as they lay entangled on the sand. It was provocative, passionate, and absolutely unforgettable, a moment that burned into the memories of audiences and critics alike. For Deborah Kerr, it wasn't just a love scene. It was a declaration that she could break free from typecasting and redefine herself as a fearless, dynamic actress. Hollywood gossip columns were soon ablaze with whispers of a real-life affair between Kerr and Lancaster. Whether the rumors were true or simply the product of overactive imaginations, the undeniable heat they brought to the screen was enough to keep audiences captivated. Their performances didn't just sell tickets, they earned critical acclaim. Kerr's daring portrayal of Karen Holmes earned her an Oscar nomination for Best Actress, cementing her transition from genteel ingenue to a star capable of delivering raw, emotionally charged performances. She had successfully shattered the prim and proper image that had once defined her career. However, as Hollywood often demanded, Kerr's next major role called for her to return to a more wholesome persona, but this time with a twist. In 1956, Deborah Kerr expanded her range yet again by stepping into the shoes of Anna Leonovans in the film adaptation of The King and I. The beloved Broadway musical had already captured hearts, so expectations for the film were sky high. Taking on the role of Anna, a headstrong Englishwoman hired to tutor the children of the King of Siam, gave Kerr a chance to showcase her signature elegance and poise. But there was one major issue. Kerr couldn't sing. Her speaking voice, perfect for aristocratic roles, didn't translate well to the soaring vocals required for a musical. The production team was determined to keep Kerr in the starring role, knowing her name would draw audiences to theaters. To solve the problem, they turned to professional soprano Marnie Nixon, who secretly dubbed Kerr's singing parts. While Kerr's acting brought warmth and depth to Anna, the behind-the-scenes dubbing revealed a surprising and somewhat bittersweet reality about her casting. While filming The King and I, Kerr endured grueling conditions under scorching studio lights. Hours of dancing in heavy layered costumes took their toll, and by the end of production, she had reportedly lost 12 pounds. She jokingly dubbed herself the melting Miss Kerr, poking fun at the physical toll the role demanded. But the weight loss wasn't the only challenge. The opulent gowns worn during the iconic Shall We Dance sequence, while visually stunning, weighed an astonishing 33 pounds, 15 kilograms. By the time filming wrapped, Kerr's legs were bruised from the strain of carrying such heavy attire, but Kerr's next project took her far from the grandeur of a royal court and into a very different kind of story. In 1957, she starred opposite Robert Mitchum in Heaven Knows, Mr. Allison, playing a nun stranded on a remote island with Mitchum's rugged marine. The film's premise set the stage for dramatic tension between their characters, but it was the off-screen dynamic between the two stars that provided some of the most memorable moments. Mitchum, known for his devil-may-care attitude, assumed Kerr would be as prim and saintly off-camera as the roles she often played. Kerr's lively sense of humor and sharp wit quickly shattered Mitchum's expectations. Far from being a demure figure, Kerr peppered her conversations with playful, colorful language that left Mitchum laughing so hard he nearly choked in the ocean during one of their scenes. Her devilish streak caught him completely off guard, proving she was anything but predictable. Their chemistry, both on and off the set, brought a natural warmth to the film, but behind the laughter, Kerr was grappling with personal struggles that were far from comedic. As her career continued to soar, Kerr's marriage to Anthony Bartley was beginning to fall apart. Bartley, already insecure about his wife's success, grew increasingly resentful of her fame and demanding schedule. Kerr's rise to superstardom only widened the emotional distance between them, and their relationship faced the inevitable strain of conflicting priorities. By 1959, Deborah Kerr's meteoric career had taken a toll on her personal life. Her marriage to Anthony Bartley, already strained by his insecurities about her success, finally came to an end. Earning significantly more than her husband had created tension from the start, and the growing emotional distance became impossible to bridge. Their parting was quiet and without public drama, but for Kerr, it marked the end of a chapter that had long been defined by conflict. However, she didn't dwell on the past for long. In 1960, Kerr married author Peter Vertel, a man with a colorful and scandalous romantic history. Vertel had previously left his pregnant first wife for a French model, making headlines and raising eyebrows. Despite his past, Kerr claimed their marriage worked in part because of their contrasting interests. Vertel was an avid sports enthusiast, while Kerr couldn't have cared less about sports. Her iconic beach scene with Burt Lancaster in From Here to Eternity had become the stuff of cinematic legend, solidifying Kerr's transformation into a symbol of sensuality. The moment was so captivating that projectionists across America reportedly snipped frames of the sequence for their private collections, causing the scene to grow shorter in public screenings over time. It was a strange and somewhat amusing testament to the power of that performance, proving just how deeply it had resonated with audiences. In 1967, director Charles K. Feldman approached her with an unusual proposition, a role in the James Bond spoof Casino Royale. Kerr was hesitant. She didn't want to commit to a lengthy production schedule, especially given her growing preference for a more balanced life. Feldman, however, knew how to seal the deal. He promised Kerr that her time on set would be limited to just 10 days. And, as a sweetener, he offered an enormous daily rate if filming ran longer. With the terms laid out so enticingly, Kerr couldn't resist the offer. Deborah Kerr's turn in Casino Royale didn't just add a playful twist to her illustrious career. It brought in a windfall that proved she could shine even in the most unexpected roles. What was originally pitched as a quick 10-day shoot stretched into an astonishing 8 weeks, and Kerr walked away with one of the largest paychecks of her career. At 45, she became both the oldest Bond girl and, almost certainly, one of the highest-paid female leads in the franchise's history. But Kerr wasn't the type to squander her earnings. Instead, she found a delightfully creative way to invest her unexpected fortune. Living in Switzerland with her husband Peter Viertel, Kerr realized their idyllic lifestyle was missing one essential luxury, a swimming pool. With her Casino Royale earnings, she funded the construction of an extravagant pool, complete with her signature touch of humor. She christened it the Charles K. Feldman Memorial Swimming Pool, a playful nod to the producer who had turned her Bond girl stint into such a lucrative venture. By the late 1960s, Kerr had grown disillusioned with the direction the film industry was taking. Increasing violence, gratuitous nudity, and a flood of uninspired scripts left her uninspired. Never one to compromise her principles, Kerr decided to take a bold step back. In 1968, she announced her retirement from the silver screen, walking away from the trends she found so distasteful. But before closing that chapter of her career for good, she agreed to one last role, one that came with an unexpected twist. In 1969, Kerr reunited with Burt Lancaster for The Gypsy Moths, a drama about skydivers and their impact on a small Midwestern town. While the film didn't feature the gratuitous violence she disliked, it did include a daring scene that left audiences stunned. In a surprising move, Kerr appeared in a nude scene, an unexpected choice for an actress who had publicly criticized Hollywood's moral decline. In 1994, Deborah Kerr was presented with an honorary Oscar to celebrate her extraordinary contributions to cinema. The award was given to her by none other than Glenn Close, who delivered a heartfelt tribute to Kerr's lasting legacy. The moment was unforgettable. Kerr received one of the longest standing ovations in Academy Awards history, a gesture of admiration from an industry that had long adored her. The irony of the presentation wasn't lost on audiences, as Glenn Close herself would later surpass Kerr's record with 8 Oscar nominations without a win. Nevertheless, the night belonged to Deborah Kerr, a career-defining moment that recognized not just her artistry, but the grace and class she brought to every role. And for Kerr, the recognition couldn't have come at a better time. Later in life, Kerr faced a battle with Parkinson's disease, a diagnosis that led her to make a poignant decision. She left behind her beloved homes in Switzerland and Spain to return to the UK, choosing to be closer to her daughters during her final years. On October 16, 2007, Deborah Kerr passed away at the age of 86, leaving behind a legacy that spanned decades and defined an era of classic Hollywood. In an almost eerie coincidence, both her husband Peter Vertel and her biographer also passed away shortly afterward, each at the age of 86, as if their stories were inextricably tied to hers. Deborah Kerr's legacy as an actress and a trailblazer remains timeless. Her elegance, passion, and remarkable performances have touched the hearts of audiences across generations, cementing her place as one of the greats in cinematic history. Thank you for joining us in celebrating her incredible life and career. If you enjoyed this look back at Deborah Kerr's journey, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories about Hollywood legends. Until next time, let's remember the grace and brilliance of Deborah Kerr, whose light will forever shine in the world of film.